And that's yet another DDG win.
What's up, everybody? This is Ryan Kelly with Dead Raw Gaming. Welcome back to the Dead Raw Gaming YouTube channel. Tonight we got a special guest from Procyon Gaming, Lepine. Got a big announcement here in just a couple of seconds, but we'll kind of introduce everyone real quick. Joining Will, we got Piper Lepine, Jake Gearhart, and Bodie Robinson. Bodie fresh off a top 32 finish at
It was
LA's
64.
top 64 finish at LAIC. So welcome everyone to the podcast. How are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Happy Monday.
Awesome.
Yeah. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Thanksgiving. Just 3 days away from the big holiday. So like I said, we are recording this one day after LAIC, so we've got a ton to talk about at the back end of this podcast. The drama, the new decks, the winner, all that good stuff. But before we get into that, we've got a really exciting announcement for Dead Raw Gaming. We're bringing in a brand new sponsor for the 2023-2024 season. Procyon Gaming, it might be a name that some of you are familiar with. Their sleeves have been kind of one of the hottest things on the Pokemon scene this season so far, selling out in a matter of minutes on their website, and hot commodity at regionals. So I wanted to bring Will on to kind of talk about the kind of origins of his company and what his plans are moving forward. But Will, why don't you just kind of give us an intro for yourself and what these sleeves are all about?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Hey, y'all. My name's Will. I'm the owner, founder of Procyon Gaming. Started this business about 3 years ago. Wasn't super serious when I first started. It was mostly just to solve a problem. So I come from the Cardfight Vanguard scene, really competitive Vanguard player. And one of the issues that I was trying to solve initially was dice. So with Vanguard, the numbers aren't as straightforward as it is like in Pokemon. So oftentimes the numbers scale in powers of 5,000 to 5, 10, 15, 20. And dice wasn't a really great way to account for those different variations. So, a 1 could be 1,000 or it could be 10,000, and then we would have criticals and all these different status effects. And it just got really messy on the board. And so I wanted to solve that problem by creating, unique dice specific to the game. I started a company with only $500. Just wanted to try my hand at kind of like a first product, and it was a huge hit. Took it to regionals, sold out immediately. Went and made second batch, sold out immediately, third batch, and it just kept going. And then I kind of realized I was onto something, creating solutions for very specific problems. Eventually, I had enough capital to take things a bit more seriously, and I moved on to card sleeves. Because the next problem I wanted to solve was, we couldn't find, as a community, it was really hard to find the right kind of oversleeves for Vanguard. Because at regionals, judges are very strict on, exactly how many millimeters of spacing are allowed between your inner and outer sleeves. And standard size sleeves, which are traditionally used for oversleeving over Japanese size card sleeve, just weren't allowed. And so I created a very specific size of oversleeve, and it got judge approved. Launched it, huge hit. And then, around that time, I was starting to get back into Pokemon. I had, I've been playing Pokemon since I was a kid, but, during college, I kind of took a break. But, with the more recent launch of Scarlet and the Violet, I thought that was kind of a great time to get back into the scene. And then, when I started sleeving my cards and, let's say Dragon Shields, Katanas, it felt too loose. And I hated how the cards would constantly slip out of the sleeve. And so I went out to create, again, a very specific size sleeve so that it was a snug fit. But I also wanted to kind of solve the quality issues that we were starting to see with Dragon Shields and some of the other brands. But also, have a great shuffle feel that was long lasting, didn't get sticky, didn't, rip or get the corner spin as easily. Launched it, success. And so, you know, that's kind of where we're at now. You know, we're kind of at our third iteration of you know, Sentinels. And you know, I've got so much more planned for 2024. Right now, the issue that we're trying to solve is production and scaling that up. I can't keep these in stock, but you know, it's so close. We're almost there. So 2024 is going to be a huge year. I've got a lot of products planned in mind. You know, of course, more colors, oversleeves for standard, right? And so much more. So I just can't wait. And you know, I'm glad I have the opportunity to team up with you guys, to be y'all sponsor. And yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a great year for everyone.
Yeah, we are super excited. We've been several of our players have been using these sleeves for a couple of events now. And I use it for Sacramento. And I'll really say, like, you know, I don't know if other people have the same experience, but it was like the feel of a Dragon Shield with the durability of a Cartana, right? Like you're not gonna, you know, have to change sleeves in the middle of a regional. You're able to get through 9 rounds or even a couple of days of tournament play without having to really switch things up. I think I've been using the same sleeve since Sacramento, just to shuffle at my desk.
Wow.
I just finally switched out like one sleeve at a League Cup this past weekend. So extraordinary quality. These are what the sleeves actually look like, the packaging, like a sky blue, yellow, white. And Will was, you know, nice enough to get us ahead of the sponsorship. These deck boxes that kind of fan out into a V shape, and you know what, hold over 100 sleeved cards and your dice and a couple compartments on the side. So we are super stoked to be partnering with Procyon into 2024. Yeah. Anything else that you can give us some teasers or anything else that you want to say about the brand moving forward?
Sure. I can't share too much, but I am making dice for Pokemon.
Sweet.
Real excited. It's going to be liquid core. So they're going to be gorgeous dice. It's going to be like a mini snow globe. And you know, now that I've been playing Pokemon for a little while now, there are some issues that I personally wanted to solve when it came down to tracking damage for Pokemon. And so a few people have heard of what I have. It's currently going through a patent. So once that patent is approved, then yeah, it's going to go into production. I'm going to launch it. Very excited about it. Can't wait, but it's still quite a ways out. I would say roughly about 4 to 5 months out. So there's still a bit of time. I still need to fine tune some aspects, but yeah, I mean that's kind of my company. It's, you know, I'm myself a player. And so when I create these products, I'm creating these for myself and for my own team. I have my own competitive team. You know, we would travel to different states, different cities, and we compete primarily for Vanguard, but, you know, now for Pokemon and other card games as well. And so, you know, I think that's kind of what sets myself and my company apart from some of the competition is that, you know, this company was founded by a player who takes this game very seriously and who wants a quality product for himself and for his team and his community, and, you know, of course, the overall community. And so that's really my focus, is creating a great product for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for you know, linking up with us and be willing to sponsor the team as we you know, head off into future events over the next you know, 6 to 9 months, the rest of the season. Once Will is able to get stuff back in stock, we'll definitely have some up on Dead Draw Gaming to pair up with your you know, all the singles and sealed that we're selling up over there. So but yeah, thank you so much, man. We'll catch up soon, but anything else you want to shout out or plug before you head out?
No, I'm good. Thanks y'all for having me. It was great joining this chat.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks y'all. Have a great day.
All right, cool. Now we're gonna get into a LAIC recap. Kind of talk about going into the event, what we were expecting, how the event shaped up, and what we're going to be expecting heading into the next few major events. Because we got Brisbane this weekend, and then we're gonna have San Antonio in little less than a month now. So, and I think DDG is going to have a huge showing down in San Antonio. Be a 2,000 plus player event down there. So, whoever takes that one is going to have major bragging rights. Let's start off with Bodhi. How'd your prep go for LIC? How'd you choose the deck that you took into the event? And how'd the day one play out for you?
I mean, it was pretty rough. I thought Gardevoir was like dead to Iron Hands. I thought it was so doomed for the deck. But I was playing it the night before, and it felt like almost every deck that played Iron Hands didn't really like do much into the new build with Avery's and Screamtails. Because it's just like you have a lot of late game control. So the night before, I was debating between that and Charizard EX, the Terra one. But I determined that since I played Gardevoir a lot before, that it was probably better for me to play Gardevoir.
Mhm.
Obviously, Counter Catcher, Avery, Professor Turo Scenario, Screamtail, Jirachi. There's so many dumb cards that just simply did not need to be added to the deck that now it has access to. So I decided to play that, and I went 6-1 day one, and then day two I went 3-1-2. So I got 40th.
Yep. And how did your morning go, day two? Was it
It
was it
was it was
stress
pretty
free?
rough.
Yeah.
No, not stress free. I slept through my alarm, so I missed round one, and then they dropped me from the tournament. But then they put me back in, so I got to buy round two. So I started day 1-1 without opening my backpack, which was really interesting. I was not expecting that experience going into my first like Masters really big event. Um, but I brought it back. I went 3-1-2 with my only loss obviously being me not showing up.
Yeah, so you really went 201 on the day for the
202. I ID'd my last round because it was mirror, and I thought my resistance was gonna be like a lot worse, obviously because I lost round one. Um, but so I was happy with 40th considering the start.
Mhm.
It was really awkward, but
Yeah, tell
I'll
me
take
about
it.
your matchups. Like what was super easy to get through? What was a nightmare to play against?
I found that I hit like two Mew VMAX out of like the 14, 15 rounds that I played, and I found that matchup was like super easy. I played a total of 5 games, I think, in those two. And the only game that I lost was when I prized both of my Gardevoir EX. So I searched my deck and I just conceded immediately. So I had time to play game three, and then it was easy because Mirage Step just gets your whole board set up.
Mhm.
Um, Charizard is like a close matchup, but if they only play one Lost City, it's usually pretty easy. I hit no Miraidon and I think one Chen Pao, so I definitely did not hit what I was expecting to. I hit like a Cloth, which is free, a Goldengo, which is also free. My matchups were really weird. I hit like 5 Gardevoir, and I think those were essentially my only losses and ties across like the whole event, apart from Rapid Strike Box, which is obviously a pretty tough matchup.
Mhm.
So I think the deck's obviously just the best deck in the format, considering those are my only losses and ties. So
Yeah, I mean if you dodge Miraidon, it seems like
yeah,
you're gonna be pretty good. I was trying to
I
find the go ahead.
I actually don't think the Mirana matchup's too rough. A lot of people think it's pretty bad, but I think it's super winnable, especially if they miss the turn one Iron Hands play.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I got bodied by Gardevoir playing Miraidon on Saturday. So I was trying to because Miraidon, like, even though it won the tournament, it actually didn't like I thought have a huge showing. Here it is. Yeah, it was only 8% of the meta on day one, right? So like 18% was Gardevoir, 16% was Charizard, which I think is kind of surprising. 10% Chen Pao, 10% Lost Zone, then 9% Warring Moon. Um Moving forward, would you recommend a third Gardevoir EX in that deck to
No, it's like
no?
the odds of prizing double Gardevoir EX. I don't know what it is, but it's like low enough to the point where even if in best of one, it's just like not worth it. You just like take that loss and move on. It's like, yeah,
It's
in
about
best of
one in a
three,
hundred, so yeah.
there we go. Uh,
So you got unlucky to do it. We did it twice in a
Yeah,
15
usually,
round tournament.
no, it was only once, I think
Oh,
it
okay.
happened,
Okay.
but I just instantly conceded and usually it's just like, you just get to choose if you want to go first, second, game three, so it's usually pretty fine.
Okay. And do you really think it's the best decking format? Like, right.
It's just like counter catcher, Avery, Screamtail, I don't know. That just has access to too many like dumb cards at this point. Like I think Screamtail was like kind of what sent it over the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very strong. All right, cool. Let me kind of open it up to Jake and Piper. What do y'all think of the results from LAIC and you know, Gardevoir potentially being BDIF moving forward?
I mean, for me, like I was Avery, like especially the weeks like leading up into the event, Avery is like really caught me off guard as a card that like wouldn't expect it to change like Gardevoir's matchups so much, but it really does. Like just Avery counter catcher Screamtail is so powerful into the bad matchups that it like changes a lot. But yeah, I think Gardevoir is in a good spot. I think the Gabriel Fernandez the Maridon build that he won with in seniors is pretty tough with the second Iron Hands for Gardevoir to beat, second Iron Hands and two double turbos. So I'd expect that to pick up and play a bit more, which like especially for like Brisbane, and I think there's one tournament in Europe next weekend as well. I can't remember which one, but I think next weekend Gardevoir is a little bit of like a sketchy play because I think Entei Valiant will be like overplayed, and so probably will Maridon, just because those are the like two big decks off of LAIC, and they're not like too difficult to pick up. So I think that like newer players will feel confident with them and be able to play them well enough. So I'd say like maybe next weekend like Gardevoir's like a bit risky, but by the time like San Antonio comes around, I think Gardevoir will probably be back where like close to the top. Just because yeah, that like Avery Screamtail is like and counter catcher is so good.
I kind of disagree that it's not a good play, at least for like the Euroballs. I mean, typically when we look at Europe regionals, Maridon doesn't tend to perform as well. Whereas in NA, like you always see like a few in top eight and usually making it to finals. So I don't think that's like a huge reason. Entei Valiant might be like popular. I'm still not sure. I haven't like tested the deck a ton, but it doesn't have a good late game. So it's like if Guardy can survive the early game, I feel like you have pretty good odds into it. Like if they're finding their one of TM Devo, which a lot of lists are cutting, a lot of the people I've seen say the card's like kind of mid. It's like kind of your bad if they're hitting it at that point. Like
Okay. So moving on from Gardevoir, I think Jake is officially vindicated as much as possible for his Iron Hands meme of the past 3 months. It won the Masters division. I mean, it was a part of the winning list of the Masters division. I guess it won seniors, right? Won the seniors division. Didn't have a fantastic showing, but I mean it, you know, it won the top two spots of the tournament basically. Are you, Jake, do you still have the same opinion after this event of Iron Hands? Is it slightly down on the tier list, or what's your take after LAC on the strength of Iron Hands and overall Maridon just as a part of this meta?
Yeah, I mean, I think Iron Hands was like underplayed to LAIC. I think like one of the things to keep in mind for LAIC is that like almost every like good player played Gardevoir to the event. And there was like some on Chen Pao, like Azul's group, but there was so much like good players on Gardevoir, and not too many playing like Maridon. So I think it probably like underperformed, even though it won the event. Like I'd expect a bit more as the format progresses, especially now that Roaring Moon is like Roaring Moon did terribly at LAIC, which kind of gives justification to play more of those Iron Hands decks because they were relatively like slightly unfavored to Roaring Moon before.
Mhm.
And like Gardevoir losing that good matchup in Roaring Moon is also not as great for the deck. But I think Ian Robb put it best on Twitter that he said that if you were playing Iron Hands or Radiant Charizard to LAIC, that was the move, and it turned out to work well for the top two players. So I think Iron Hands will probably go up in play, and I think it deserves to at this point still. But we'll have to see as the format goes on.
Any other thoughts on Miraidon, Iron Hands, or
I hate Miraidon. That's all I have to say.
I
granted?
think
Okay.
both the decks that play it are very mid. I don't know. Like I'm not that talented. I don't hit energies off the generators. I brick with Shen Pao. Like I don't know. They always feel like pretty bad when I play them. Might just
Did
be a
you,
skill issue though. I don't know.
did you see there was an 18 energy Miraidon list top 16
Oh, I
yet?
saw
So
that. It's like abilities art. Has to be broken.
That
Surely.
guy
yeah.
definitely started with like 6 lightnings in his hand at least twice.
I saw someone tweet a photo of that at like them testing the list.
What? So one thing that I was thinking of after this event, like Miraidon is a relatively cheaper deck to pick up, especially after the whole Inti situation. Like out of the two decks in um the finals, Miraidon's probably the cheaper one. If more if the meta is favored more towards Miraidon, what's a good counter to Miraidon in this meta? Not that you even want to exactly counter one deck. Let's just say what's going to body Miraidon.
I mean, I
Either
haven't
Mew deck will do
yeah,
pretty well. Probably DT a bit more. But
I haven't tested it all that much in like this format once Iron Hands came out, but I think like Urshi Intel is probably a pretty good play like
Mhm.
for this next weekend. Just because you should like Intel cleans up the Entei and Urshi cleans up Miraidons, and that's like, and then it's already good into Gardevoir, so that's like half the format. But like especially with the Devolution TM, I think
Mhm.
before like Gardevoir matchup was fine, but the TM makes it a bit tougher. So I think that's probably a good play for next weekend. But I'm not entirely sure how Iron Hands being in the deck changes things, because like if you start Intel and Miraidon goes like turn one Iron Hands, you're probably losing that game, even though you have a fighting thing that can hit a bunch of Pokemon. But yeah, so I think Urshi Intel's like the move if you want to beat those two decks.
Okay, cool. Um, Next up on the docket for a discussion of LIC is it has to be Iron Valiant with Entei. Um, was this unexpected for y'all, or not as surprising as some might have thought? It seems like Iron Valiant was extremely popular in online play leading up to the event. Did y'all think it would translate this well into the actual results? We'll start with Bodhi since you were actually there preparing for the event.
So like I didn't think that like my issue with Iron Valiant into the event was that you like lost steam really quickly. Obviously with the Entei, you have like a little bit of onboard draw with fleet-footed, and your attackers are a bit more chunky. Like 210 is not exactly an easy number to hit, obviously with the Magma Basin. Most time you're hitting your Entei for 20. And then obviously Radiant Zard with a couple Iron Valiant pings almost knocks out anything in the format. Um, I didn't really think it was gonna do well, just obviously, because you like lose. Like I don't think Gardevoir is even that good if they like survive the early turns, because if they, I don't know, you when you're at like 3 prize cards, the game might just end like that. Because you don't have very many good responses once your hand just gets that low. But I haven't played the matchup too much. I just going into the event, I was like, Iron Valiant, you fall off super late into the game. So if your
Mm-hmm.
opponent can stall long enough, the game usually just does not end in your favor. But obviously the point of the deck is to just win super fast and just completely like destabilize your opponent's board. So that's probably why it did so well. And Rhydon's probably the best at late game hand disrupt and having bigger Pokemon.
Yep, like a while ago, like even before the set came out, I was testing like Iron Valiant with Zatu, and I had a Radiant Charizard in there with like Earthen Vessels and things. And that like I thought like Valiant plus Radiant Zard was like a pretty strong from even then, but I like completely overlooked the Entei. It's just a very solid like attacker early game. It does like everything you need it to. So I think the deck is like it's a legitimate deck. I think it's pretty strong, like probably tier 2 deck at worst, I'd say. I think it's got a lot of like a lot of close matchups. There's like some that are like pretty lopsided, like Mew is pretty terrible. But like it's good against it's really great against the Chen Pao and anything that has 60 HP, kind of middling against everything that's like a two prizer that like Entei and Radiance are just one shot those back and forth, and whoever gets the first attack off usually wins unless someone misses off of hand disruption. And then it's also like pretty weak against the V Maxes, Intel and Mew. But I think it's a very solid deck. And I wouldn't be surprised if it like continued to do well. I think it'll be overplayed next weekend. But by the time San Antonio comes around, we'll get like a better picture of where it actually lands.
Okay, cool. Last just a couple more questions about LAIC real quick. We kind of mentioned earlier, Roaring Moon really didn't do well in this event. Do y'all think that it's even a deck to consider moving forward, or is it just kind of dead in the water here?
I mean, I think you should like still consider it a deck. I think probably the best way to build it at this point is the one with water energies and Radiant Greninja with switchers, 'cause I think it's the best way to like just try and go as fast as possible and be the most annoying, like fast deck you can be for your opponent. But I do think the deck's like, I don't know, it's your matchup spread's like, it's like super good, strong, fast, consistent. But it's, you just like, you're like lacking, like, it feels like just one piece to make the deck super good. Like Guardy has a bunch of time. It just feels like the way the Guardy matchup works is it's like Guardian to Charizard EX, but you don't have to worry about Lost City and your opponent's Pokemon are smaller, so.
Yeah, I think the deck's in like a much better position for future events than LAIC. Because like there was not a ton of Entei, Valiant, and Miraidon, but like now we're definitely gonna see a spike in play from those. And I think it probably has pretty favored matchup into both of those. Like you're just more consistent, and like a lot of times you'll have a 290 HP Pokemon, which can be pretty difficult for them to deal with. The main issue at LAIC was like a lot of people played Guardian. It was the most played deck both days. And that matchup's just like unwinnable, it feels. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the deck, like as long as you're dodging Guardy, your matchup spread's pretty good. Like it's the one deck that can like consistently just take 2 prize cards every turn, starting turn 2 going first, which gives you a good matchup into anything that's putting just 2 prizes into play. So like if you expect your opponent's board to be full of 2 prizes, then play Roaring Moon. But otherwise, yeah, I personally would avoid the deck because I think good players will stick with playing the Gardevoirs and Lost Zones, and those matchups are always pretty tough. So,
yeah, I went to a cup on Saturday, and I was actually pretty surprised at how popular Lost Zone still was. Like, still half the room was playing Lost Zone, and it's probably not a great.
I will say, I think that like Lost Zone is super overplayed. In my area, I have a friend who he won a cup, but he hit 7 Lost Zone decks, and just like that's just not right. Just doesn't really make sense. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. I think it's super overplayed in locals just because, I mean, now people have less access to Entei's and not very many local players will be playing Gardevoir, so. Lost Zone's good local play. I don't know if I would play it to a regionals or a big event.
Yeah. Okay. Last question I had just after, LAIC, do y'all have an opinion on how we would rank Paradox Rift as the most impactful competitive set in the past like 5 or 10 years? Is this kind of compete with like Guardian Rising or some of the other major sets that we've seen, or do y'all think this is going to be long term more in line with just a regular kind of slightly above average set?
I think like it was obviously super impactful. The meta like got flipped on its head. Lost Box is like way worse now. You basically only see Tina. Obviously with the exception of the Radiant Charizard Roaring Moon deck, which I don't know even how that guy drew cards. It feels like that deck's inconsistent. But I mean, obviously Iron Hands is huge. Iron Valiant's huge. I mean, there's just a bunch of like extremely good cards. The meta got flipped on its head. I do think that Guardians Rising was a lot better with the addition of Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele, like, there was decks to play four of that card, and that was just insane.
Mhm.
I think that
I
the ability to
agree.
switch your deck for a supporter was so broken that that also changed the meta so much more.
I agree that Guardians Rising was much better, but like the big thing with Guardians Rising is the introduction of Trash Lanch with Garbatoxin already in the format. Like,
Mhm.
it forced people to like completely rechain. Like, it you had to build your deck in a like much different way. Like we saw Volcanion go from like turbo with like max elixirs, a ton of items, to like a lot less items in the deck, so that it wasn't prone to late game Trash Lanches. But now we're like seeing decks add in a few new cards like Countercatcher, Earthen Vessel, Iron Hand, stuff like that. But it's not like a complete restructuring of how the deck is like being built. And also like the format is definitely being sped up by Paradox Rift, which like whereas Guardians Rising slowed it down, which for Guardians Rising was a good thing. Speeding up the format now, it's kind of hard to tell if it's going to be good or bad. Like there's been a lot of issues with like tying at events. So like
Mhm.
in terms of the best of 350 minutes, faster games could be better, but like in terms of enjoyment of the game, faster games could just end up being worse.
Yeah.
I think
Ye-
one of the issues with the way Paradox Rift is speeding it up is that like the amount of like actions per turn that most decks are doing is going up even farther. Whereas like most of the time when you speed up the like ideally you're speeding up the format, and if the number of turns goes down, like you save a lot of time, which this Paradox Rift is saving a bit of time from those best of three issues, but people are still playing so many cards per turn. Like the Entei deck, you're drawing like 10 switching cards, playing them every turn. Fleet-footed multiple times, Squawkabilly on turn one. Same with Roaring Moon. Same with Miraidon. Played 3 generators in a turn. Gardevoir draws a million cards. Although Gardevoir isn't slowing down, but I think the root of the issue is just that there's so much to do every turn, and I'd much rather be playing a game with twice as many turns with half as many things doing each turn, because I think that's where like the skill in Pokemon comes with like planning ahead, choosing which attacks to use when and what supporters to use when. Whereas now that we're playing sort of like some decks are ideally trying to win on turn 3 or 4, like you don't have much to play around. Like your opponent's going to do the exact same thing every game, and whether or not you hit whatever you have to hit, it's sort of like a little bit out of your control. Where yeah, it's like the skill in the game is coming in from like purely sequencing stuff and not like planning ahead, which is why I like the Gardevoir mirror right now is like the only thing keeping me sane. I like that matchup so much because it's like you're playing entirely like a board based game. Like prize cards don't matter like as much. Like if you take the lead, that can be bad, but um uh like yeah, keeping your board like it's based on board state rather than prize cards as much because it's so easy to come back with counter catcher, just taking 2 prize knockouts on an opponent's Gardevoir EX. Whereas you don't really see that with any of the other matchups. It's more yeah, more prizing based than like board state. Like it doesn't matter if you have 4 Valiants in play or 2 or like 2 attackers set up. I don't know. You're either hitting your combo or you're not.
Mhm. Yeah, the bare minimum, if we're not having lost zone mirrors being 20% of the every round at a regional. That will cut down on the ties significantly, which would be nice. Hopefully we don't get, it feels like we're turning towards a meta that's like towards the end of the Sun and Moon era, where it was just like long turns with Pikachu and Zekrom and ADP, and it was over in 3 or 4 turns. Hopefully we don't get back to that point, but we shall see. Okay, cool. Any other decks I didn't mention, or any closing thoughts on what y'all expect the next few major events to look like and how we should prepare for those?
I think Snorlax, Stall, and Mew are in very good positions. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but in theory, the Entei Valiant match was like kind of fine if you can have a Bravery Charm on your Snorlax. Like, it's kind of hard for them to deal with it, and eventually they're going to run out of switches, especially with like heavy Misfortune Sisters builds. The Miraidon matchup's kind of weird. You can usually get to a point where you trap something, but you might have to get a bit lucky. You can usually like win a game and then like maybe tie or win, but yeah.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think that, sorry, I think
No,
that
you can-
Blocklax is in a pretty good spot. Just, I think into LAIC, people are definitely over prepping for the deck. I think Turo had like an insanely high play rate in Gardevoir in LAIC. Partially because people just did not want to lose to Block Snorlax because of the popularity on Twitter of the deck. And honestly, I was considering playing Block Snorlax, but it was so overhyped on Twitter that it was like almost unplayable because I felt so many people were going to tech for the deck. So I think it's in a better spot now. I think Mew is also in a better spot now, specifically Fusion, just because I think losing to Spiritomb kind of sucks. But I do think Spiritomb probably won't be played too much. But I mean, there's 3 regionals in between now and San Antonio. So I don't even know what's gonna happen to this meta. I'm sure some weird stuff's gonna happen. So I'll figure it out based on the 3 regionals: Stuttgart, Brisbane, and Gdańsk.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I was gonna mention Blocklax as well. I think it's it's pretty good into the two decks that it did most well, like at the event, Entei and Miraidon. But yeah, I have like an article coming out on that. I don't know when it's coming out. That's up to Ryan. But
This week.
I think one thing people haven't realized is that the Gardevoir matchup, even without like Turo, is pretty bad for Blocklax because of Gardevoir can put 3 teleportation burst Ralts in play and then Mirage step out like to fill the rest of their board. And then Snorlax has nothing to trap, and they can't Erika's because your bench is full. And you have enough energy to like every time Blocklax would bring up a Ralts, you just teleportation burst back into your attacker, and you have just enough energy to make sure you can't like you're fine after that. So I think if Blocklax wants to beat Gardevoir, they have to play like Collapse Stadium plus Vacuum to do like Collapse Stadium, Vacuum it away, then Erika's something into play. And even that can just be stopped because Gardevoir plays like 4 Iono. So they can try and draw their, like if you draw into one thing, like you draw into 1 mana fee, then you trade a bunch and play all your search cards, put all your bad Pokemon into your hand, and then Iono them all to the bottom. And it's really rough for Snorlax. So I think, but I do think there's other ways for control to be built, like just in general in this format, different attackers, and different ways to beat Gardevoir and other matchups. So I don't think we've seen the end of that. And I also think there are a couple other decks out there, most likely that people just haven't found, because this set is very impactful. It's not a Guardians Rising level thing where we're building our decks differently, but it's certainly like the format's been flipped on its head, and we've seen many times in the past with sets that are much smaller and much less impactful that there's decks that come out of nowhere. And so when everything's been changed, I think there's stuff out there still.
Yeah, we got a regional in Poland and Brisbane this coming weekend, and then December 9th is the tournament in Stuttgart, Germany. So hopefully Sander makes it out to one of those and shows us how Control is really built for this this format. So All right, awesome. Now, who wants to talk about towards DQ? We all down for that?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't
No,
think so.
thanks.
Yeah, there's no shortage of drama at LAIC, which is if you're at home and not at the event, it's sometimes fun to keep track of. But yeah, it made for an interesting tournament. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Can't wait to see everyone in San Antonio for the next North American regional. Hopefully our rest of our jerseys are here in time and everyone is kitted out properly for San Antonio. Like Jake mentioned, he'll have a article coming out this week on cuttertap.com. I think basically completely covering the Snorlax deck. And I think we're gonna have one other one this week. I don't remember who it's gonna be from, but we should have two coming out on Cutter Tap week of Thanksgiving. And then of course head on over to Dead Raw Gaming. Get out your singles and sealed products. They want to throw up a discount code Wednesday for Black Friday. I have a lot of uploading to do in the next 2 or 3 days. And of course, thank you so much to our sponsor, Procyon Gaming. Can't quite go get their products right now, but you'll catch Team DDG sporting their sleeves for us this season, definitely in San Antonio. We might have a couple boxes to give out to some folks in San Antonio, but huge thank you to them for supporting us. Y'all want to shout out your Twitters or coaching or anything like that?
No, I'm good.
Piper.
My Twitter is Piper Lepine. I'm pretty busy with school right now, but yeah, you can DM me on Twitter for coaching. Maybe we'll see how my schedule goes.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at Jake K Gearhart. Yeah, most people probably already know know where they can find me.
Perfect. Yeah. Jake's the one with several thousand followers. Way bigger than anyone else. All right, cool. Thank you all so much. We will catch y'all next time.